Hello, everyone. You are welcome to MTS 209 or 205 lecture titled Elementary Differential Equations 1. So, today we are going to consider Laplace transforms, which is just like a method of converting a function from one domain to another domain. So, we are going to consider how to use that particular Laplace transform to solve initial value problems. You know, we have boundary value problems of differential equations, and we also have initial value problems. So, in this aspect, which is the last part, we are going to consider how to use Laplace transform to solve only initial value problems. And the next thing we are going to consider is simple treatment of partial differential equations in two independent variables. So, we are going to also consider application areas. So let's start the journey. The first one is the Laplace transform. Like I've said earlier, I said it's just a method of converting a function from one domain to another domain. And one thing is that after the conversion, we are going to find it much easier to undo the function in another domain. That is why I said that it's just that we are converting from T domain, as you can see on the board, to S domain. So how do we define it? We said f of t be a function, and this t here must be greater than 0. Then the Laplace transform of that particular function is equal to small f of x, which is integral from 0 to infinity exponential minus st, then f of t dt. This is the correct way. So let's assume that I ask you that what do you understand by Laplace transform? What will you write for me? Of course, definitely you know that there are 2 points here now. The first point is that f of t is a function dependent on t, and t must be greater than 0. That's condition number 1. And condition number 2 is this particular integral, that from 0 to infinity exponential minus st f of t dt. Now, the next thing we want to consider now is this. How do we know if the Laplace transform of a particular function exists? In other words, does that mean that we can find the Laplace transform of any function? No, that's not true. There is a way we need to know if the Laplace transform of a particular function exists. So the first thing we are going to consider is this. Let's consider what is called functions of exponential order. Now, let's consider f of t, that t squared. Now, let's consider another function again, which is an exponential function, which is exponential 2t. Now, look at this very well now. Absolute value of t squared is the same thing as t squared. I think you agree with me, because if you put minus here, minus 2 squared, you will still get 4. If you put 2 squared, you still get 4. Now, let's proceed now. Let's say we have t squared. Let's put question mark here and put exponential 2t here for all t greater than 0. Now, the first thing is this. When t is equals to 3, let's go back to this expression here, which is t squared question mark exponential 2t. By the time we put 3 here, we have 3 squared question mark exponential 2 times 3. Now, we have 3 squared 9 and exponential 6. If you press your calculator, you see that the answer is 403.4. Now, look at this very well now. You will see that 9 is less than 403.4. Then how do we conclude? What does that mean to us? 9, of course, everybody knows that 9 is less than 403.4, isn't it? Of course. Now, what is our conclusion now? We are going to conclude that the function t squared is of exponential order 2. Why? Because absolute value of t squared is less than exponential 2t. Of course, for all t greater than 0. What this means is that when t is 4, if you put it down here, you will still see that t squared, absolute value of t squared, is still less than exponential 2t. If t is 5, any value you pick for t, by the time you substitute in this expression, you will see clearly that absolute value of t squared is less than exponential 2t. And do you notice that we said is of exponential order 2? That 2 here, is it this t squared or this 2 that is multiplying exponential a? Before we conclude, let's consider another example again. This time around now, let's use exponential 3t. Now, look at this very well now. We have t squared question mark exponential 3t, of course, for all t greater than 0. Now, when t is 3, let's put t here. We have 3 squared question mark. Let's put 3 here again. We have exponential 9. You will see here now that 9 is also less than 8103.08, which is exponential 9. Then how do we conclude? We can conclude that the function t squared is of exponential order 3, because absolute value of t squared is actually less than exponential 3t for all t greater than 0. So what we've just established now is that we can find the Laplace transform of t squared, because we can see now that using the function of exponential order, we can see that t squared is of exponential order 2, is of exponential order 3. Even if you increase the order again to exponential order 4, exponential order 5, of course, let me ask you, if you say exponential order 6, which means that you're going to compare t squared with exponential 6t. That is good. Now, let's proceed to next page. Let's consider this classwork. Just like you know very well, they said mathematics, you will come to the class and solve simple examples, and by the time you want to set a question, you will set a tough question. That's not true. We're only trying to learn using something simple, and at the same time, we're going to learn again using something that is very tough in nature. Let's consider f of t equals to exponential t squared. We want to check if exponential t squared is a function of an exponential order. Now, to establish this, let's consider three cases when t is 2, t is 3, and t is 4. Now, look at it now. We put exponential t squared here, then we use exponential of order 3. You can see from here, 3 times t. Okay, now let's consider another one again. Exponential 3 squared, here t is 3, right? Then here 3 times t, that's 3 times 3. Then here again, we have exponential 4 squared, then we have exponential 3 times 4. So now let's proceed now. As you can see, we have this, which is 54.59 less than 403.42. And here we have 8103 equals to 8103. And here we have 8886110.521, which is greater than 162754.7. Oh, do you notice something there? Here it is less than, here it is equals to, here it is greater than, which means that there is a problem. There is no uniformity here. So what does that mean? It means that something is wrong with this exponential t squared when we compare with exponential order. So how do we conclude now? Now we can conclude that the function f of t is not of exponential order. Why? Because when t is 2, it is less than. When t is 3, it is equals to. When t is 4, it is greater than. So we can see clearly now that something is wrong. Perhaps we can say like that. But what we can say now is that to find the Laplace transform of exponential t squared is going to be highly challenging. In fact, math in science, we don't like to conclude directly like that. But we can say that it may not exist. I've used the word may, which means that the Laplace transform of exponential t squared may not exist. So, but we don't have to write it like that. We need to use mathematical language. We need to write it in the language of mathematics. So we consider the absolute value of exponential minus lambda t. Then this is the function that we have tested now, exponential 3. Okay. Then that is exponential t squared. This is t squared, exponential t squared. So we can say that exponential t squared minus lambda t can be made larger than any given constant by increasing t. Please take note of that. This is exponential t squared, not 3 t raised to the power 3. Now let's consider definition 1. Definition 1. If real constant m is greater than 0 and gamma exists such that for all t greater than n, then we can say that exponential minus lambda t, that function we are talking about, just like in this conclusion here, this is the function, right? Okay, so it's less than m, where m is greater than 0. Or perhaps we can say that, you will see from here that by the time we handle this absolute value here, this one can still give us exponential minus lambda t. Are we together? And in that case, you see that by the time that exponential minus lambda t come to the other side, we're going to have m exponential lambda t, which is this. So we can say that f of t is a function of exponential order gamma as t tends to infinity. Or briefly, we can just say that it's of exponential order. So let's continue again to definition 2, sectional and pairwise continuity. Now, we know, when do we say a function f of t is continuous? Of course, we know that function f of t is continuous if we can evaluate that function at that point. That's number 1. And number 2, if the limit of that function is equals to that function at that point. So In this case now, we now want to consider domain. So let's consider this definition on the board. The definition says that a function is sectionally continuous or pairwise continuous in the interval alpha to beta. If the interval can be subdivided in the sense that from alpha to beta, we can break it into small finite number of intervals, in each of which the function is continuous. Now let's consider what we have on the board now. Page 3 now. We want to check. There's a theorem here, and the theorem says it has to do with sufficient condition for existence of Laplace transform. What is the sufficient condition? What are those conditions that must be satisfied before we can conclude that a particular function has a Laplace transform? On the board, let me read the theorem. Look at the theorem on the board now. We say if f of t is sectionally continuous, that is point number 1. Abi, this point number 1 means that over a particular finite interval, if we break that interval down, this same function here is still continuous in each of them. Now that's point number 1. I think you can see point number 1 now. Point number 2 is that the function f of t must be of exponential order gamma for t greater than n. Then its Laplace transform f of x exists for all s greater than gamma. Now let's go to remark. Remark here is this: if all these conditions are not satisfied, if I may ask you, how many conditions do you think we have here now? What will you say? 2 conditions? Is that 2 or 3 conditions? Look at the very well. You see now that f of t must be sectional continuous in every finite interval between 0 and n. Number 2, f of t must be of exponential order for t greater than n. Number 3, the Laplace transform of this for f of t exists, and for s greater than the order of exponential. So you see now that we have 3 conditions. Now let's go to this remark. If all these 3 conditions are satisfied, however, the Laplace transform may or may not exist. That is one thing I like about science. You know, science at times, we like to present a fact and put a condition that we are not being judgmental. But what we are saying is that if we are saying the function has no Laplace transform, now there are some software, there's some websites that we can use to find Laplace transform, that we can just enter a function and it will give us the Laplace transform inverse based on a particular numerical algorithm. So that is why you can see now that you say it may or it may not exist. Let us prove this theorem and see what it's all about. Now, remember that we said that the function must be sectionally continuous within 0 and n. Now, let's consider the integral 0 to infinity s minus sf of t dt. Let's break this interval from 0 to infinity to 0 to n, the n to infinity. Now, look at it now. We have this. Since f of t is sectionally continuous in every finite interval between 0 and n, the first integral on the right exists. Do you know what I mean by that? Is that, look at it, from 0 to n, this integral here, this one exists. We know that this one will give us something meaningful, isn't it? How do I know? I know because the function f of t is sectionally continuous within the interval of 0 and n. And exponential minus st, this function here will decay. Are we together? At any value of t, even by the time t is 1 million in this integral here, you will see that this one will not diverge. So if this one will not diverge and f of t is sectionally continuous over 0 to n, definitely this integral will not give us any problem. The only one that can give us problem is this one that is going from n to infinity. So let's proceed now. If f of t is sectionally continuous in every interval 0 to t, 0 and n, so it means that this first integral here, we won't have any problem with it because the integral exists. The integral will give us something meaningful. It will not diverge. Now let's consider the second integral on the right hand side. Now we have n to infinity. Please, for those of you that have this lecture note before, I've corrected something there, most especially with this proving. So please take note of that. We have from n to infinity e minus sf of t dt, then absolute value. This one here will be less than if the integral should come outside. Now you see now that here we have the integral that is outside here now. Then we have the absolute value that we take care of only the function and exponential minus st then dt. This one too will also be less than if f of t takes the absolute value only. But we know that the absolute value of f of t is actually equal to m exponential lambda t. How do I know this? If you scroll back to our last page, you will see it here. Can you see it here in definition number 1? Can you see it here? This is how we come up with that fact that absolute value of f of t is less than m exponential gamma t, where gamma is the order. So let's continue with the proof now. So we have m exponential gamma t. So we have this. Now look at it. We can pick m can come outside. Then we have exponential and exponential. Then we have gamma minus st as the power. Now what's the next thing now? We integrate. When we integrate, we are going to evaluate from n to infinity. So we have exponential minus lambda st, then this. Now what's the next thing now? We evaluate. When infinity is here, we put infinity here, then minus when n is there. So you can now see that we have exponential gamma minus s multiplied by infinity, minus, of course, remember now, you evaluate at upper bound minus the lower. So we have this one. But do you notice that the limit as p tends to infinity of exponential minus sp is actually 0? Yes, that is true. But here you notice that x has minus. Look at this one too. We have minus x. Here you have minus x. Hence, you now see that the integral absolute value is n to infinity e minus s f of t dt will be less than m. Of course, you know that this one here we give us 0. Then we have minus here. Now we are now having it at n here. Of course, definitely this one will converge. It will converge because you can see now that infinity is no longer in the system again. Do you agree? Infinity is not here again. So what we make it to divide, because we know that n is there. And besides, if you remember, if you go back to the definition of n, if you go back to the definition of n, you will know that the n here, for us to say, okay, you see from here now, we said the function is sectionally continuous in every finite interval. Do you notice that in this set, in this range now, n is inclusive because we have less than equals to n. So at n, we know that the function is still sectionally continuous. So if you come back here now, you now see that that's why we now conclude that if this n here, at n, we know that the function is sectionally continuous, then it means that this one here cannot diverge. So we can now conclude that the second integral also exists. Thus, we can say that we have the Laplace transform of that particular function. So hence the proof for the sufficient condition for Laplace transform. So based on this proof now, we can see that we know when we can say the Laplace transform of a particular function exists. And for your information, I can't just give you any function. Of course, definitely. But what if I ask you to tell me how to know if the Laplace transform of a particular function exists? Of course, you have to state the theorem and prove it. And remember that what we are teaching you, we're expecting you to know this thing and you understand it. So if you want to tell me about exponential order, function of exponential order, I don't expect you to give me only the definition. Of course, you can give me an example. Let's go back to page 1. You will see in page 1 here that we consider a particular function that has exponential order, as you can see in page 1. If you look at page 2 again, we have another function that is not of exponential order. So if I should ask you to tell me what you understand by function of exponential order, of course, I expect you to go extra much. Of course, definitely. So now we know the concept of Laplace transform. When we can find the Laplace transform of a particular function. So let's consider example number 1. We want to find Laplace transform of 1. Do you know that 1 is a function and 1 is a constant function? So let's proceed. Laplace transform of 1 is equals to integral from 0 to infinity, then 1 exponential minus st dt. Of course, this is very simple now. All we have to do now is that we need to integrate exponential minus st. And after the integration, we evaluate the answer from 0 to infinity. So here, by the time you put infinity here, then minus 0, you will see clearly now that the limit of this function as t tends to infinity will definitely give us 0. So we have only this one left. So definitely the minus will come and multiply this minus, then you have 1 over x. So without cramming it, we can see now clearly now that Laplace transform of 1 is 1 over x. But do you notice that that's not all? There's a condition very important to this. X must be greater than 0. Take note of that. Because look at this, when x is 0 here, what do you get? Infinite. Or some people will say math error. So you can answer that it's very important for you to put this condition that x must be greater than 0. Let's consider example number 2. We want to find the Laplace transform of t. How do we go about it? We have t, Laplace transform of t is equal to 0 to infinity t exponential minus st dt. Now look at this. When we have a function multiply another function and we want to integrate, what do we use? By parts. Of course, because t is a function, exponential minus st is another function again. And you want to see the area covered by this function over is 0 to infinity. So for us to get that, we integrate by parts. So let's take a look at this now. Of course, you know integral u dv equals to uv minus integral v du. But don't forget, the integral is from 0 to infinity. So let's proceed now. So now the problem now is this: if we have u, we have dv, which one are we going to assign? Of course, definitely we say u equals to t, because by the time we differentiate u, the power of t will reduce. Of course, you can see from here, the u dt will give us 1. Then the remaining one is now integral dv is equal to integral exponential minus st, which is the other part here. So if you integrate both sides, you have v equals to exponential minus st divided by what? Minus x. I think you still remember simple integration. When you integrate, you divide. When you differentiate, you multiply. Don't forget that. So that is why you have minus x here. So let's go back to the integral. 0 to infinity t e minus st dt. So is equals to, look at it, this is my u, this is my v. Then I will evaluate the answer at 0 to infinity. That's why I was saying the other time that don't forget integration by parts. We have uv minus integral v du. You still need to evaluate because we are integrating from 0 to infinity. So let's proceed now. So you have this, you have this. This is uv minus integral v du. Look at my v. This is my v. My du is what? You know, from here we can cross multiply and say du is equal to dt. So we have this expression. So what is the next thing now? We evaluate. You put infinity here, you put 0. Of course, remember. See, by the time you put infinity here, see, we want to replace this t with infinity. Anything times infinity will give infinity. But what about exponential minus s infinity? This one will give us 0, because as p tends to infinity, even at time we can say t, limit as t tends to infinity of exponential minus st will give us 0. So definitely this one will give us 0. Then by the time you say minus, you put 0 again. You put 0, 0 will multiply anything, will give you 0. So you have minus times minus will give you plus, then x can come outside. Then we have 1 over, of course, you know we are integrating with respect to t. So we have 1 over x, then 0 to infinity e minus st dt. Now, that's what I was saying, that you should record this, because of that's why we have 0 here. So let's proceed now. So we now have 1 over x. Of course, remember from here, 1 over x. Then we have 0 to infinity e minus st dt. So which is equals to 1 over x. Of course, you know, I still need to integrate what is inside again, which is exponential st. So if I integrate, minus s will come under. Remember, we are integrating. If it's differentiation, it will come beside, it will multiply. But when you are integrating, it will come under it. So we have from 0 to infinity. What is the next thing now is that this one will multiply to give us 1 over minus s squared. So you evaluate again, infinity here is 0 here. Then you see that this one will give us is 0. What about this one? It will give us 1. So minus 1 times 1 over minus x squared will give us 1 over x squared. But do you know one thing we can generalize? You know, here we have only solved when Laplace, we've only discovered the Laplace transform of t is 1 over x squared. Look at your lecture note. I said provided n is greater than 0, Laplace transform of t raised to power n is equal to n factorial over xn plus 1. Now let me ask you a question. If I ask you to tell me what is the Laplace transform of t raised to power 3, you don't need to do the 1 again. You don't need to pass through the stress. Just come back and say that the Laplace transform of t raised to power 3 is equal to 3 factorial over s raised to power 3 plus 1. That is 3 factorial over s raised to power 4. Even if you want to do Laplace transform of t raised to power 10, it will be Laplace transform of t raised to power 10 is equal to 10 factorial over x 10 plus 1. It's as simple as that. That is why I said in the first class, I said Laplace transform is very simple. We only want to convert from one domain to another domain. And why do we need that conversion? We need it because by the time we do the conversion, we will now come up with something small that we can handle. You remember in the class, I said there's some ways that we can achieve certain things. All we need to do is that we can first of all reduce it. If the thing is tough, we make it simple. Then from simple, we can undo it. So if at all you cannot undo something tough, you can undo something simple, isn't it? Is there anyone in this class that cannot undo anything again? No, you can undo something. So that's why I say if you cannot undo the Laplace transform in T domain, we take it to S domain. Then from S domain, we can undo it. Don't forget that I said that we are going to use this method to solve initial value problems. So that is the reason why we need this kind of conversion, because by the time we take it to S domain, very simple. Now let's consider example number 3. We have the function f of t to be exponential at. Now we want to find the Laplace transform of exponential at. It's very simple. Let's go back to the integral. We have the integral from 0 to infinity e at e minus xt. Remember exponential, you factorize, then you now have a minus x into bracket t dt. So what is next thing again? We evaluate the something. We have it now from infinity to 0. So look at this expression on the board now. If you put infinity here, you have exponential a minus x multiplied by infinity over a minus. Do you remember where we come up with this a minus x? Do you remember? Look at this. If you differentiate this, t will give us 1. 1 times a minus x. Then the answer, you divide it. So that is why we have a minus x. And come up with this one again, you evaluate at top minus you evaluate at bottom. So we have this like this. So what is the next thing? Is 0 will give us 1. Then we now have minus 1 over a minus x. That's why we have a minus 1 over a minus x. So if you multiply this one again, we have 1 over x minus a. So that means that Laplace transform of exponential at is equals to 1 over x minus a. But wait, we can't leave the answer like that. There is a condition missing. The condition is that this x must be greater than a. It is when this x is greater than a that this denominator will give us something positive. Now, let me show you something. If x is less than a, which means that it is negative. Now, negative minus negative give you negative. Then you have 1 over minus negative. And remember from the definition of Laplace, we said f of t is a function such that t is greater than 0. So it's very important for us to put the condition that x must be greater than a. Now let's go to another example again. Now you will notice that we've considered Laplace transform of constant function, of a constant function. We've considered Laplace transform of a simple function or a simple power, if t raised to power something, and we even generalize it here. Of course, using the method of using a mathematical induction, we can use it to confirm this, that this is true. Are you with me now? This is true. So we've considered exponential. That's number 3. Number 4. Now let's consider trigonometry. This is where we are going to end today's class. But let's take a look at this. Do you remember that all we need to do now is that to find Laplace transform of sine at, we just say Laplace transform of sine at is equals to 0 to infinity e minus st sine at. Now, there is something we need to know here now. Whenever you have a function exponential multiplied by trigonometry and you want to integrate, what do? You integrate by parts, right? But you will notice that you have to integrate twice. Then you come up with the problem again. So let's proceed. Before we proceed, let's quickly take a look at this. Let's remind ourselves. If you differentiate sine, you have cos. If you differentiate cos, you have minus sine. That is what I put at the top here. Now let's go down again. If you integrate sine, you have minus cos. If you integrate cos, you have what? Sine. So let's keep this one. Now let's come back to undo this. Another thing we need to consider now is that if we want to integrate by parts, it's better we should assign u to be exponential, so that by the time we differentiate u, x will not go as the denominator. Do you agree with me now? Okay. Because if you look at in this case now, by the time we integrate, you see that we have 8 here. But let's assume that you want to integrate exponential minus xt. You will see that what we have is exponential minus st over what? Over x, over x, over x. So we don't want that kind of problem. So you can check your textbook again on this, but you will see that it's better we assign exponential to u so that we differentiate. So let's differentiate u now. You have the u dt equals to minus x exponential minus st. Now our dv is sine 80. Let's integrate both sides. Then you integrate dv, you integrate this. So by the time you integrate this, you have b equals to. Now let's integrate sine 80. If you integrate sine 80, what would you get? To get minus cos 80 divided by a. So you have minus cos 80 divided by a. Now let's go back now. We now can now say that the problem, which is 0 to infinity sine 80, remember that we are trying to find the Laplace transform of sine 80. Okay, so it's now equals to u v. Everything here is the combination of u and v. As you can see on the board, see, look at it now. U, v. Then minus will come outside. That is what we have here. From 0 to infinity minus is 0 to infinity minus b du. That is minus cos 80 over a. Then b du. That is minus x e minus st dt. So what else again? We evaluate now. Infinity, we put infinity here. Then we put a. We put 0 again. So we have this minus 0, 0 minus 1 over a. Then look at this one. See, look at it. We have minus times minus times minus. That will give us minus. But minus times minus is plus, plus times minus is minus, so we have minus a. Then 1 over a. Then look at it now. We now have cos 80, we have SE80. Do you notice something that from here, x can come outside? So if x should come outside, we have x over a. Then what about this one? Of course, I don't need to write that one again. We know that the limit of this one will give us 0. And this one again, cos 0 will give us 1 over a. Because exponential 0 is 1. Then we have minus and minus is plus. That's 1 over a. Then minus x over a. Then integral 0 to infinity cos 80 exponential minus st dt. Look at this one. We cannot stop like this. That is one thing I love about mathematics. Mathematics is prepare your head in such a that whatever you are trying to solve, you need to get to the final destination. You can't just stop along the way and say you want to get the full mark. That's mathematics for you. It's just the only subject that will teach that. It teaches us to solve a problem from beginning to end. So let's proceed now. We need to integrate this one again because we cannot stop here. So what do we do again? We integrate by parts. Remember the rule I said, if you are integrating trigonometry and exponential, you assign u to exponential. So we have u exponential minus st. So if you differentiate if you differentiate this one, you have the u equals to, of course, remember in differentiation, this one will come beside, then dt. Now dv is what? Cos 80. You integrate cos 80. If you integrate dv, you have v. If you integrate cos 80, you have sin 80. Don't forget, that's why I said we should put it down here that if you differentiate sine, you have cos. If you differentiate cos, you have minus sine. But if you integrate sine, you have minus cos. If you integrate cos, you have sine. So that is how we obtain this. We have sine 8 over 8. Then we put it back to the problem. By the time we return back to the problem, we now see that we have the 1 over a. Now let me explain how we come up with this one. It's very simple. See, from here we have is 0 plus 1 over a. So this 1 over a here is what we have it. Then minus x over a, we have it. So this is only what we are trying to address. This part. So we come here, is now a big bracket. Then this uv minus v du is as simple as that. You can write it down on your note and there. But next thing now is that we evaluate. Now by the time you put infinity here, it will go because sine infinity, that's exponential minus s infinity. That one will give us 0. Then 0 times this one will give us 0. So the next one is 0. By the time you put 0 here, exponential 0 is 1. But what about sine a times 0? That was the same thing as sine 0. What is sine 0? Is 0. That's why you can see here. I say record that sine 0 is 0. So by the time you put sine 0 is 0 here, this one will go. That is why we have is 0 minus 0 here. Then plus. How do we get this plus? This minus here, we take care of this. So we have x over a will come outside. Where did I see that x? This is the x. This is the a. Can you see both of them now? They will come outside. Then you have integral 0 to infinity sine at, then exponential minus st dt. Remember where we are coming from. We are coming from integral 0 to infinity sine at e minus st dt. So what does that mean now? Let me assign this one to be I. This is my problem. So I now have I is equal to 1 over a, which is this one, minus x over a. Then this one 0, 0. This one, that will be x over a, then I. So collect the like terms, then change it again. You will see that you have 1 over a equals to 7. 1 over, we have, that's page 7. We have this expression. Correct, continue. Then you see that your I is a over a squared plus x squared. So what does that mean now? It means that Laplace transform of sine 80 is equals to 0 to infinity e minus st sine 80 dt is equals to a over a squared s squared. Now we are going to follow the same procedure again to find the Laplace transform of cos 80. What does that mean again? But here we have it to be s over x squared plus a squared. This is very simple. This is how I normally remember at times. Cos, see, you have x at the back. Cos. This x here, that's x over x squared. See, you see that in both sine and cos, Laplace transform of sine, Laplace transform of cos, both of them, they are divided by a squared plus x squared. It's only the top that will change. It's only the numerator that will change. But in the case of cos, you have s. In the case of sine, you have a. So that's that. But if you follow the same procedure like I've explained before, this is what you will come up with. So you can see what we have on the board. We are going to integrate by part again twice. So for those of you that you see don't remember integration by part, please pay attention. Look at this one. So that is where we are going to stop for today. So the comment section, feel free to drop your comments. Let me know whatever you have in mind. But don't forget that in this class, we've considered certain things. We've considered the Laplace transform of trigonometry. We only consider sine and cos, right? Okay. We also consider the Laplace transform of exponential, which is what we have here. And then we also consider the Laplace transform of t. And I've explained that if t raised to power n, we can generalize it to give us n factorial over xn plus 1. So the lecture note is available at the section, comment section. You will see the link there. Click on that link. It will download this PDF. And don't forget, for those of you that have this lecture note, remember that I've corrected something, most especially page 4. So please make sure you check this on disproving. I've corrected something there. Please take note of that. And then we also consider function of exponential order in this class today. And don't forget, I said that this is actually 2. Remember, this is exponential t squared. Please take note of that. And we consider certain things. And you can see now that we cannot say that Laplace transform is just like a conversion of a domain of a function from one domain to another. So we are going to end today's class like this. So thank you very much. Thank you.
We share
tutorial questions and answers.
It is all about understanding facts and sharing with others.
Learning continues. We are learning to know, understand, and share with others.
Please subscribe to our channel if you like our videos.